Yo, what's up, everybody? So, your dreams are not big enough. Like, you've stopped dreaming about what you actually want in life. And there's so many things I can unpack on this, but I was thinking about this. It's February, it's the end of February, and we talk about New Year's resolutions and the targets people set for themselves by then. Those are long gone. Most people have quit on those forever ago. They're like a distant memory, and then they're going to try again next year. But even those who have like set targets for the year and set things that you wanted to accomplish, and this year was going to be what to you, A, B, C, and D, and you were going to do whatever it was. I want you to consider that most of you guys set targets so small that even if you achieved them, they really wouldn't matter. Like, it really wouldn't make an impact in your life. You know, maybe it was like lose 10 pounds. Maybe it was, you know, be on time more. Maybe it was you want to make, you want to even double your revenue. Right, double your income, or you wanted to get a new job. Maybe you wanted to finish something. Maybe you wanted to, have a better relationship. Whatever it is, like, you set these targets, these ideas, and things you want, and most of you guys set them too small. They're too small. They don't. Here's the problem with the small goal. Small goals are the fact that if you don't have a big enough target, this big enough thing that you actually want to go after, you won't care enough to do the hard work. See, the goal setting kind of operates like this. Like, you start out, you set a goal, and you're pretty ignorant to it, right? There's this ignorant optimism. You're very optimistic about what you've set for yourself. And it's like, I want to run a marathon. Okay, cool. And let's say you haven't run it all, and you're like, I'm going to run a marathon. You're very excited, very motivated, and then you have your first run. And you realize it sucks, and you're out of shape, and it hurts, and all this. And you're like, but it's okay. You're still optimistic. It's going to be good. You're going to turn the corner. But then you run again, and then you run again, and then you're through the first week, and then you're hitting into the second week, and you're in tons of pain everywhere, all over the place, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this seems like it's going to be a lot more work than I thought. Which brings up, you actually start to get some knowledge, right? You start to actually learn something, and you actually then start to become a pessimist, right? Because now you've got some data to back up that this is going to be a lot harder than you thought. It's not going to be as simple as flipping a switch. It's not as simple as declaring it one day in the heat of the passion of the moment, and everybody's like, yeah, it's a great target. You can go after that target. That's great. All of a sudden, you realize there's work involved, right? There's work involved inside of the thing you said you wanted. And most people, that work scares them, right? They get afraid of the work, and so they're like, that's too big of a target. That's going to be too hard to pull off. I don't even know if I can do it. Like, I've never done anything like that in my life. I don't even know if I can do it. What am I doing this for? I'm a crazy person. Why would I think this is a great idea? Run a marathon. That's a terrible idea. Okay. So here's what most people do. Instead of just pushing through and realizing that, hey, I can do this, and I just need to work harder, and yes, there's going to be hard work, and I need to lean into the hard work, and eventually I will get to the point this year that I can run that 26.2 miles, and I will accomplish my marathon. What people will do, and they'll be like, you know what, instead of a whole marathon, I'm going to do a half. I'm going to do a half of a marathon. We'll do half of a one. Right? And then even that, some people are like, well, that's just a little extreme. I don't need to be so extreme. I just need to be healthy. I just need, I don't want to hurt myself. I'm going to get hurt if I run that much all the time. So I'm just going to do a 5K. We'll just do a 5K. And then they go to work to run that 5K. They start the training, they start with the walking, and then they move. Now, I'm not all here to say that that's a terrible thing. You're moving towards some target. But what you've done is you've taken something that to you in your mind at the time of setting the target seemed impossible, 26.2 miles. And instead of paying the price to become a different human being that can run 26.2 miles, see, because someone who's never run to someone who runs a marathon, you think differently. You operate differently. The way you do things is different. You don't do things the same way. And so you literally transform into a new human being. But instead of doing that, you try to stay the same while accomplishing a smaller target. Because the version of you today, when you set the goal of 26.2 miles, which seemed impossible, that version of you can wrap his head around 5K. 3 miles, I could do 3 miles. That's pretty reasonable. That's a reasonable target. And you'll tell people, hey, I'm going to run a 5K. People are like, good for you. Good for you. And that's about where it ends. Nobody really cares. Let's be totally honest. 5K is nothing. That is nothing. It's 3 miles. There's pretty much no one on the planet that if we just say, take as long as you want, run a 5K, you could do it. And your body's not even going to be that messed up. I get it. There's some people who are probably morbidly obese. There's some other people that got some health issues that can't do it. But for the most part, 99% of our world could do that, right? So you set that target. It's like, oh, here we go. And here's the hard part. You're the same person. You didn't transform. Nothing really even changed about you. You went from not running a 5K to running a 5K, and you're the same human being. Yeah, you accomplished a target, so good job. You took a step in the right direction. But you didn't transform because your target was too small. It was way too small. What you were going after didn't stretch you at all. You really didn't have to become a new person. You didn't have to think differently. I didn't have to change all these patterns and routines in my life. It was a small target, as opposed to the one who says, I'm going to run a marathon and I've never run a marathon before. You have to transform. The way you operate has to transform. Your dedication, your discipline to doing the training routines and doing the runs every day that you were supposed to do the runs and taking the rest days and doing the stretching and eating the right food and staying hydrated and all the things that would come into having to run a 26.2 mile marathon, you literally transform. And so when you get to that point, when you actually accomplish the impossible, it's not impossible, it's just impossible for you, who you are today. And we're saying, well, you're going to become somebody different. And in that becoming of somebody different with this marathon, you complete the marathon, you're not just changed. You're not just the same person who ran a marathon. You're transformed. You literally think differently. You operate differently. You show up to the world differently. You show up in your relationships differently. You show up in your business differently. You show up in life differently. People see you differently because you see yourself differently. But you didn't just change, you transformed. But if all you do is set really small targets, these little teensy targets that you already know how you're going to pull off, you already know when you set the target, you say, hey, 2025, I want to do this 5K. You already know how you're going to pull that off. It's pretty reasonable for you to expect that. And if that's as far as you stretch yourself, I'm not saying you don't have growth. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world. I'm saying it's a whole lot better than having no goals and targets and just your goal and targets to see how many Netflix shows you can watch. That's a pretty terrible target. But it's diminished. It's very small when you have the potential for so much more. There's so much more growth and expansion you can have, but it starts with being able to set targets that seem to you impossible. They seem to you unrealistic. In 3 days, I'm running 77-mile race. To some of you, you might hear that and be like, dude, this dude's crazy. This dude's insane. Why would he do that? And that's impossible. Nobody can run 77 miles. And I'm like, well, yeah, they can, actually. And I'm going to do it on Saturday. And 6 weeks ago is when I decided I was going to do it. And I just picked the date of March 1st. I'm going to run around the island of Kauai. Even to me, that's impossible. I'm like, man, this is going to be brutal. But it's not impossible in that I can't pull it off. It's that the version of me 6 weeks ago could never have even come close to attempting it. I would have broken down by mile 15 for sure and been like on the side of the road needing an ambulance. Right? But I put in 6 weeks of training so that I could transform who I am as a person, as a mindset, and as a body, so that I might be prepared to do something that's going to be as grueling as running around this island, right? And if the temperature's anything like it is today, 3 days from now, it's going to be brutal. It's 2 in the afternoon time I'm recording this, and it's 88 degrees. Yeah, that's warm. That's warm. It's also like 80% humidity right now. It's going to be brutal. I'm going to really have to focus on my management of heat in my own body, or I'm going to be screwed. I won't be able to finish. So when you look at this, that target for me seemed impossible, but guess what? Now who I am today, in 6 weeks, it's now possible. I've put the time in, I did the training, I did what I needed to do to make myself as ready as I possibly could be ready. Now, are there things coming in 77 miles that are going to jack me up and going to be brutal? Yeah, for sure. It's awesome though. That's part of the game. This is part of the process. This is a part of what we do. So I want you to take a look at your world. Take a look at the targets you're going after right now across body, being, balance, and business. Look at your targets. Which one of those targets actually matters to you? First question. And then second, is it actually a big enough target? Is it stretch you? Do you already know how you'll pull it off? If you already know how you'll pull it off, it's not an impossible target. It's not even a great target. It's literally just like, it's just a simple little target. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing cool. Nobody's going to like write home about it and be like, whoa, did you see what you did and what you're going after and what thing you accomplished? No, unless it's a big enough one. So find the big enough one. Most of your targets, I promise you, are too small. Most of the targets you have set, they are literally not even going to raise an eyebrow to your friends. They wouldn't even be like, whoa, you're doing that? Right? Okay. Right? Your targets need to be so big, so outlandish, that normal, average people look at you and think you're crazy. All my targets are that way, which is why I constantly win, which is why I vibrate at a higher level, which is why I'm constantly improving who I am. Not a comparison against other people. It's a comparison against me today versus me tomorrow. And every single day is an opportunity for me to grow and expand in that. So once you have found the thing for you, adjust the target. What's something you could do to that target that would make it stretch you just a little bit further? That might make you just a little bit nervous. That might make you say, I don't think this is possible. Cool. And then from that, you can actually build a life that learns how to think differently, be differently, and actually go after the impossible. Don't set small targets. That goes against, I know everybody always says, set these small little targets. No, don't set small targets. It's a waste of time. Absolute waste of time. Set large, massive, huge goals, and then do everything in your power to go after them. So that's all I got for you guys today. Your boy Trevor White here. Have a fantastic rest of your day.